Hello and welcome to Legally Simplified. Today we are going to talk about something at the heart of our democracy, the voter list. If you have ever voted, you know that moment of walking into the polling booth, checking your name on the list and casting your vote. That list, also called the electoral roll or voter list, is what ensures that only citizens entitled to vote actually get to exercise that right. Right now, the Election Commission of India has started a massive exercise in Bihar. It is called the Special Intensive Revision of the Voter List. Officials are going door to door verifying the details of every voter. It is the biggest cleanup of voter lists in more than 20 years. To help us understand this better, I have a special guest with me today, Priyanka. She's been following this closely. Priyanka, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hello to everyone listening. I'm really happy to be here today. This is a topic I genuinely care about actually, so I'm glad we're talking about it. From what I've seen in news reports and from watching many talks, and especially from seeing how the booth level officers are working on the ground, well, this is, without a doubt, a super important topic. The voter list, simply put, is the main support for fair and honest elections. If its accuracy is not right, people might start losing trust in the whole way we vote, right? It's that key. It really makes a difference.
Yes, I completely agree with you. So, maybe we can start with the basic idea. Can you tell us exactly what the voter list is and also who can be on it? Just, for those who might not know much about it.
That's a very good question. Simply put, the voter list is a complete record of everyone who can vote. If your name is on this list, you can vote. If it's not, then you can't. It's that clear. But there are some very clear rules from the law. First, you must be a citizen of India. Second, you have to be at least 18 years old on a certain date. And third, you must live in the area or constituency where you wish to vote. Pretty simple rules, really. All these rules, by the way, come from a law called the Representation of the People Act. For example, Section 16 clearly tells us who cannot be on the list, like people who aren't citizens, or people a court has said are not of sound mind. Section 19, on the other hand, sets the age rule and says you must be ordinarily resident in the constituency.
Ordinarily resident sounds a bit like official language, I guess. Can you explain that phrase? What exactly does that mean in real life? For someone who, say, goes away for college or work?
Sure, it's an important part and I'm glad you asked. Section 20 explains ordinarily resident as the place where a person usually lives and sleeps, not just a place they might visit for a short time. So for example, if you go away for work or studies, that doesn't stop you from being ordinarily resident there, as long as you plan to come back. Like if you are a university student studying in another city, but your family home is still where you expect to return. Also, just owning land or a house somewhere doesn't count. For people like government workers, police officers, or army members posted somewhere else, their ordinary residence stays where they would live if they weren't on duty.
That makes it much clearer. And if I remember right, courts have also explained this, haven't they? For example, in 2006, the Supreme Court in Kuldeep Nayar versus Union of India confirmed that ordinary residence is about where you truly live and mean to stay, and has nothing to do with just owning property.
Now that we understand ordinary residence, the law also sets out what you can do if something's wrong with your entry on the roll. Under Section 23, you can apply to have your name added if it's missing, or to have mistakes corrected, whether it's your name, address, or other details. And if the electoral registration officer refuses, Section 24 gives you the right to appeal to a higher authority. So the Act not only defines who should be on the roll, but also gives you a way to fix errors and make sure your right to vote is protected.
That makes a lot of sense. But here's a question I have. Why is this special big checkup happening only in Bihar right now? What's the main reason, do you think, for choosing Bihar specifically?
That's a very good question. Usually, the commission does what they call summary revisions, which means they just release the old lists again and let people add names or make small changes. But when the lists become very, very wrong, that's when they do an intensive revision, which is, in simple terms, almost like building the voter list again from the very beginning. It's a much bigger job, a real deep clean.
Right. And to add to what you've said, this kind of intensive revision has actually happened many times before. Think about the 1950s, for example, when many women weren't on the list, often just listed as wife of someone. Can you imagine that? Also, you might remember the late 1980s when the voting age went down from 21 to 18, which meant millions of new voters had to be added. In the 1990s, these revisions helped bring in photo ID cards. And in the early 2000s, states like Maharashtra and Bihar had big revisions between 2002 and 2004. But for almost 20 years now, gosh, we've mostly just had yearly updates. So this intensive revision in Bihar is actually the very first major full cleanup in decades. It's truly a big event, a real milestone, I'd say. And frankly, probably something that was needed for a long time.
Exactly. And that's mainly because I think a huge number of mistakes just built up over all those years. It just, gets messy, and then you need a big reset like this. Things get a bit unclear over time.
Got it. Can you explain how this process is actually being done on the ground? What are the practical steps? How is it all working day to day for people?
What I've heard is that the booth level officers are visiting homes with forms that are already partly filled. If someone has been on the list since, say, around 2002 or 2003, their old entry is usually fine. They simply need to confirm their details. But if their name was added later, they now have to show proof, like a birth certificate, a passport, a school certificate, or sometimes even a document from a parent to prove they are a citizen. It's a proper check, a stricter one than before.
That's quite different from what they used to do, and I guess maybe a bit debated, right? Asking for all that paper for so many people, especially in a state like Bihar.
Indeed, exactly. Before, the booth level officers mostly just asked questions and took people's word for it. Now, voters have to actively give documents. The commission, it seems, thinks this makes things clearer and more honest.
Right. And I hear political parties are allowed to watch this, which is good. Plus, officers are told to help older people or people who can't read or write, which is, of course, a very important part. That's a crucial part of it. Ensuring everyone can participate.
Furthermore, a big change this time is that Aadhaar is not being accepted as proof. Aadhaar, after all, mainly shows who you are, not that you're a citizen. Frankly, I agree with the commission on this. Moreover, it's widely known that fake Aadhaar cards are being sold, sadly. Accepting Aadhaar could, I believe, lead to many problems and wrong uses. It's a smart decision, really, if you think about keeping things fair.
That certainly makes a strong point. And Priyanka, I understand that technology is playing a really big part in this revision, right? A major difference, I gather, compared to previous efforts?
For the first time ever, voters can now get, fill out, and send forms online along with scanned papers. And the booth level officers, amazingly, are now using phone apps, sending data right away to the Election Commission's computer system called eKinet. It's quite an advancement, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. It signifies a considerable technological shift. Is there any other major point we should know about? Perhaps something that connects to the bigger reason why this is happening now?
Oh, yes, there is. The Commission has, understandably, said they are worried about people who aren't citizens getting on the voter list, especially people who came here illegally from countries like Bangladesh and Myanmar. It is, frankly, quite upsetting to think about how our way of choosing leaders could possibly be affected by people who aren't legally supposed to vote.
And that brings up a really key point, doesn't it? Bihar was specifically chosen for this intensive revision because it has state elections coming up this November. And in fact, other states like West Bengal are expected to do similar checks soon. Plus, it's not just the commission. Political parties themselves have, for years, complained about mistakes on the lists. So, it's definitely high time that strong action was taken. It's a necessary step, really. The stakes are quite high to get this right.
Certainly, I agree.
Indeed, something well worth watching closely. That brings me to the next question. What has the Commission actually found so far from this intensive revision? Are there any early numbers you can share with us, perhaps on what all this hard work has achieved? I'm sure people are curious to know the impact.
So, the first phase ended in July. So far, what we know is that out of about 7 crore 90 lakh voters, about 7 crore 23 lakh were verified. but between 60 and 66 lakh names were flagged for deletion. That included 22 lakh deceased voters, 7 lakh duplicates, and 35 lakh marked as permanently shifted or untraceable. Another 1,20,000 did not submit forms. Together, these add up to about 65 lakh names flagged for deletion.
Those are some big numbers. That's quite eye-opening, the sheer size of it all. It really shows how much cleanup was needed.
They certainly are. And what's important is that the Election Commission shared these lists of flagged names with all the political parties on July 20th. This lets the parties tell any voters who might have been wrongly marked for removal. So, people still have the chance, thankfully, to register again during the time set for people to object, from the 1st of August to the 1st of September. There's a proper way to fix things, you see. It's not a final, immediate removal from the list.
Supporters argue this is a long overdue cleanup. Removing deceased voters and duplicates makes the list much more accurate. But there are legal challenges in the Supreme Court. Can you explain what exactly the petitions before the court are claiming?
Sure. The petitions were filed in July by groups like the Association for Democratic Reforms, the People's Union for Civil Liberties, along with political figures including RJD MP Manoj Jha, TMC MP Mahua Moitra, former MLA Mujahid Alam, and activist Yogendra Yadav. They are challenging the Election Commission's June 24 notification that launched this special intensive revision. Their main argument is that the process could unfairly strip legitimate citizens of their right to vote just before an election, without enough time or safeguards. They base their case on constitutional principles. Article 14, which guarantees equality before the law, Article 19, which protects free expression, including through the ballot, Article 21, which safeguards the right to life and dignity, here linked to the right to vote, and Article 326, which enshrines universal adult suffrage. In plain words, they argue the SIR undermines fairness, dignity, and the inclusiveness of the franchise.
And how has the Election Commission defended itself?
The Commission has filed an affidavit saying it is exercising its constitutional powers under Article 324 and its statutory duty under Section 21 of the Representation of the People Act, 1950. It argues that it has full authority to verify whether a person is qualified to remain on the rolls, which necessarily includes checking citizenship, age, and residence. It stresses that no deletion is automatic. Each flagged name must go through notice, hearing, and an opportunity for objection before final publication. On Aadhaar, the Commission has been careful. It has told the court that Aadhaar is not by itself proof of citizenship, but that it can be used as one of the identity documents for verification, provided it is cross-checked.
So what exactly has the Supreme Court said so far?
The matter is being heard by a two-judge bench of Justice Surya Kant and Justice Joymalya Bagchi. The first substantive hearing was on 10 July, followed by a sitting on 28 July. Importantly, the court has not stayed the Bihar revision. Instead, it has zeroed in on fairness and transparency. On 10 July, the bench urged the Election Commission to consider Aadhaar, voter ID, and ration cards as acceptable identity documents for enrollment and objections, while underlining that none of these documents taken alone prove citizenship. On 28 July, the court stressed that the emphasis must be on including every genuine voter, not excluding people in bulk. And on 14 August, it went further. It directed the Commission to publish the full list of about 65 lakh names flagged during the revision with booth-level details and the specific reason for each proposed deletion, whether death, migration, duplication, or non-submission of forms. These lists had to be made available online and displayed locally so that people could easily check if their names had been marked.
Thank you for the detailed clarification. So where does this leave the SR process now?
The timeline is clear. The draft roll was published on 1st August, and the claims objections window remains open until 1st September. After that, electoral officers must examine all objections and finalize the list. The goal is to publish the final roll by 30th September before the November Bihar elections.
Well, that really sums it up. If this is done properly, it could be a milestone for Indian democracy, updating the voter list for a new era. But if it goes wrong, it could shake people's faith in the system. Priyanka, thank you so much for joining me today and explaining this so clearly.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. It was great to talk about this.
And thank you all for listening to Legally Simplified. We will be back soon with more conversations about law and democracy. Until then, stay informed and take care.